This is Cosmic News. Welcome along, my friends, to another edition of Cosmic News. Coming up in this week's broadcast, what to expect as Nibiru closes in on Earth, the horrific truth of how this massive fiery object will affect our planet and the people. Plus, a warning has been issued that Yellowstone supervolcano will erupt within weeks. So how will an eruption of this giant affect America and the world? Also, concern is growing that Ebola virus is out of control and a threat to the global community. And Putin to issue feared dead hand order as global war nears. Okay, into this week's news. This first report originates from whatdoesitmean.com. Title: Putin issues feared dead hand order as global war nears, by Socha Fael, and as reported to her Western subscribers, posted on July 29th, 2014. A grim report issued by the Strategic Missile Force SMF, which is the main component of Russian Strategic Nuclear Force SNF, states that President Putin earlier today issued a feared dead hand order not used since the 26th of September 1983, when the nuclear early warning system of the Soviet Union twice reported the launch of American Minuteman intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, from bases in the United States. The issuance of the 1983 Dead Hand Order, this report says, was in response to a 5-day North Atlantic Treaty Organization NATO command post exercise called Able Archer 83 that Soviet military officials feared was a ruse to war. A dead hand order, it should be remembered, is a Cold War era nuclear control system developed by the Soviet Union and remains in use today, and is controlled from the massive and highly secretive underground military city at Mount Yamato, located in the Republic of Bashkortostan. Dead hand is an example of failed deadly deterrence, as it can automatically trigger the launch of the Russian intercontinental ballistic missiles ICBMs if a nuclear strike is detected by seismic, light, radioactivity and overpressure sensors by most accounts. It is normally switched off and is supposed to be activated during dangerous crises only. However, it is said to remain fully functional and able to serve its purpose whenever needed, such as today. To Putin's ordering the dead hand protocol today, this report continues, is a direct response to President Obama's plan to send US military forces into Ukraine, a hostile war move Deputy Foreign Minister Vladimir Titov warned last month, and would lead to an immediate Russian response. To view the full transcript, go to my website, endtimes23.com, where I've posted the link. There's a live link to my website near the end of this video. Infowars.com has reported the following: if Ebola hits US, even healthy Americans will be quarantined. And this was posted by Paul Joseph Watson on July the 30th, 2014, with concern growing over the deadly Ebola virus, which has killed 670 people in Western Africa. Preparations are already underway in the United States, where even healthy Americans will be subjected to forced quarantine in the event of an Ebola pandemic. Western governments are now issuing alerts to doctors to be on the lookout for symptoms of the disease after an infected Liberian man was found to have traveled through a major transport hub in Nigeria. The World Health Organization has called the outbreak the worst on record record, while Doctors Without Borders says the situation is out of control. Back in April, the Department of Defense announced that it had deployed biological diagnostic systems to National Guard support teams across the US in readiness for any potential Ebola outbreak. To view the full transcript, go to my website, endtimes23.com, where I've posted the link. There's a live link to my website near the end of this video. And here's an update on this ongoing story. As of the 7th of August 2014, there have been 932 victims reported to have died from this horrific disease sweeping Western Africa. This following report was posted by secretsofthefeds.com and warns that Yellowstone supervolcano could erupt within weeks. Yellowstone National Park has been hastily evacuated as fears of the Yellowstone caldera eruption is deemed to be approaching sooner than previously expected. Researchers on site claim that the 640,000-year-old supervolcano has exhibited a sudden spike of activity, which indicates that it could erupt in as little as 2 weeks. The explosion caused by the volcano would very well throw all of the United States into a 200-year-old long volcanic winter, with ash blotting out the sun and pyroclastic flow irreparably damaging the surrounding ecosystem. 2 weeks ago, several roads through Yellowstone were closed down after the pavements began to crack and bubble due to the extreme temperatures rising beneath the Earth's surface. No one has yet been able to pinpoint what has spurred this sudden surge of action. Officials monitoring the volcano are primarily concerned with keeping the curious out of the park, as well as safety, vacating surrounding areas to prevent any potential casualties. The scientific community is split on when exactly the volcano will erupt. Some say weeks, while other camps suggest that it could be several months. One thing they all agree on, however, is that it will happen very, very soon. Senior volcanologist Richard Dunn gave the following report in regards to the volcano's alarming activity. This is something which could have never been accurately determined ahead of time. This unpredictable flux of activity is quite concerning and flies in the face of all our previous studies in regards to this particular volcano. Our chief concern at this point is getting people to safety. So, what to expect if Yellowstone supervolcano eruption occurs? 1. A full-scale eruption of Yellowstone could be up to 1,000 times more powerful than the eruption of Mount St. Helens in 1980. 2. A full-scale eruption of Yellowstone would spew volcanic ash 25 miles up into the air. 3. The eruption of Yellowstone seems to be getting closer with each passing year. Since 2004, some areas of Yellowstone National Park have risen by as much as 10 inches. 4. There are approximately 3,000 earthquakes in the Yellowstone area every single year. 5. In the event of a full-scale eruption of Yellowstone, virtually the entire northwest United States will be completely destroyed. 6. A massive eruption of Yellowstone would mean that just about everything within a 100-mile radius of Yellowstone would be immediately killed. 7. A full-scale eruption of Yellowstone could also potentially dump a layer of volcanic ash that is at least 10 feet deep to 1,000 miles away. 8. A full-scale eruption of Yellowstone would cover virtually the entire Midwest United States with volcanic ash. Food production in America would be almost totally wiped out. 9. The volcanic winter that a massive Yellowstone eruption would cause would radically cool the planet. Some scientists believe that global temperatures would decline by up to 20 degrees. 10. America would never be the same again after a massive Yellowstone eruption. Some scientists believe that a full eruption by Yellowstone would render two-thirds of the United States completely uninhabitable. 11. Scientists tell us that it is not a matter of if Yellowstone will erupt, but rather when the next inevitable eruption will take place. This info originated from infowars.com. This next report is a Cosmic News presentation. For decades, your leaders have been planning their own survival by constructing a massive network of deep underground military bases, DUMBs, paid for by cornering the drug market and siphoning off trillions of your tax dollars. These underground survival bunkers, some as big as cities, are linked by a highly technologically advanced transport system. These constructions were built solely to save members of the shadow governing elite, as well as government leaders from around the planet, who have remained tight-lipped about this coming apocalyptic event. Also, these leaders' families will also have golden tickets to ride out this apocalyptic event in the comfort of these underground survival complexes, while you, the people, will have to fend for yourselves on the surface of a very hostile world, as the earth goes through a biblical deluge as the poles shift, as well as an apocalyptic, earth-changing event. Also, the many nuclear power plants from all around the planet will have gone through meltdown, leading to a massive expulsion of radioactive fallout into the atmosphere and oceans of our planet. So, has the ordinary man, woman and child got any chance of surviving this coming apocalyptic event, and what to expect as this huge fiery object flies by Earth? As Nibiru closes in on Earth, you will see this massive red object becoming much larger as it approaches planet Earth. You will feel a massive interaction, a magnetic interaction between these two energy-charged planetary objects. The effects will be like two energized magnets repelling each other. When this occurs, you will witness the Earth tipping over. That will cause a 90-degree geological pole shift. A biblical deluge will follow, and an apocalyptic, earth-changing event. Also, the many nuclear power plants from all around the planet will have gone through total meltdown, leading to a massive expulsion of radioactive fallout into the atmosphere and oceans of our planet. As the poles shift, the oceans of the planet will leave their basins. This is the start of the biblical flood that has occurred on many previous flybys of Nibiru, as reported by the ancients. If you have not heeded the warning signs of Nibiru closing in on Earth and relocated to high ground and found a suitable cave to reside in the initial stages of this event, then you will suffer the ultimate fate of drowning. At this point, the repulsion effect will push Nibiru away from Earth, allowing this massive object to thrust out of our inner solar system into deep space. As another warning sign of this coming event, before the ultimate interaction takes place between these two massive objects, Earth's rotation will stop, leaving Earth in daylight for 3 days and the other side of the planet in complete darkness for 3 days. At this point, you will know time is short and you need to relocate to high ground with all your survival gear. Once the Earth's rotation starts up again, you will notice this by the night and day sequence returning. You should be all set up in your survival cave with all your survival gear stored in a safe location in the cave. By this time the wind speed will accelerate to hundreds of miles per hour, and the earth will be groaning and the ground will be vibrating. Every volcano, even extinct ones, will explode back to life, leaving volcanic dust to block out the heat from the sun for months if not years. You should expect to witness mega earthquakes, the likes of you have never seen before. The howling of the winds will last for days until the effect of Nibiru's passing diminishes. I have often wondered, how could we possibly survive such a horrific event? Well, the honest answer is yes, but it will be very difficult. Even if you come out of your cave to a much calmer earth after this event starts to wane, you will be more than likely be threatened by a new terrible danger, not flooding or the sun being blocked out by volcanic dust, but the many hundreds of nuclear power plants that will have gone through total meltdown, releasing massive amounts of radioactive fallout into the atmosphere. So another item to add to your survival gear is a radioactive and a biological protection suit. If you don't have one of these protection suits, you won't survive for long. It is estimated a large section of people who do survive this coming event, most will perish within a 6-month period due to starvation, lack of clean drinking water, sickness and illnesses, as well as respiratory problems. Also, even before this event takes place, the shadow governments will have created a third global war that could take out billions. So the question to ask is, who would be the lucky ones? Those that try and survive this event, or those that don't? I suspect the latter, the informer. This following report on sinkholes originates from zetatalk.com and poshiv.ning.com. What happens to rock layers under a diagonal pull or being pulled apart, as can be seen during recent years? This has resulted in derailing trains, sinkholes suddenly appearing, gas and water main breaks, torn roadways and separating bridges. Despite the effect on man crawling about on the surface of what they assume to be terra firma, these changes are superficial. When the pulling starts, weak points break and thereafter the plumbing and roadways hold, giving the impression that the pulling has stopped. But this is misleading. The North American continent is giving evidence that its rock layers are separating from each other and sliding sideways in a diagonal, thus exposing portions of these layers to vent into the air above. If rock is being stressed, then where are the earthquake predictors giving evidence of this? The frantic animals, the static on the radio, the earthquake swarms. Rock in the stretched zone, pulling apart rather than compressing, does not emit the particles flow that animals and radios sense, nor register on instruments, our tensions and release quakes. We have repeatedly stated that the earth changes will not diminish, but will increase, going into the pole shift. This is not a linear matter, as the closer Planet X comes to Earth, an inevitable path, the more the torque effect and the polar wobble, where the north pole of Earth is pushed away violently on a daily basis, occur. The wobble will become more pronounced, more violent. The plates are tugged back west of the Atlantic, pulled forward east of the Atlantic during the daily rotation of the Earth. The North American continent is allowed to roll east during rotation, while the South Pole is pulled west, creating the diagonal pull likely to trigger the New Madrid fault line into an adjustment, and soon the North Pole is pushed away and allowed to bounce back daily as the Earth rotates, a wobble that puts stress on all fault lines where the plates are suddenly in motion and suddenly stopped. As there is no other explanation for the effect on the stretched zone, lacking any earthquakes to blame, and as these stretched zones accidents will continue to emerge, and with ferocity, this is a certain clue to those on the fence that the influence of Planet X is the cause. Zeta Talk. Chat Q&A for April the 13th, 2013. Sinkholes almost invariably form in areas subject to karst limestone cavern formation. Underground water flows eat away the limestone, leaving vast caverns and caves, which often give scant indication above ground that a cavern lies below. Karst limestone rock formations have been mapped and are known, however, but since one never knows just where a cavern might have been formed, this provides little help in predicting just where a sinkhole might form. Sinkholes open up when the rock is fractured due to stress from being in the stretch zone, from the bending of a plate, or due to torsion. Okay, my friends, you're all invited to join this channel by subscribing to End Times 23, which is a totally free subscription service. You're also invited to add me as a friend on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. If you'd like to drop me a line on my blog or join one of my circles on Google+, the links are under this video. All this week's news links can be found on my website, endtimes23.com. There's a live link near the end of this video. Well, that's your lot for this week, my friends. I do hope you've enjoyed the show. I'll be back with you in a week's time with another edition of Informer News. So until then, this is your Informer signing off, friends. I'll see you on the flip side. This is Cosmic News. Welcome along, my friends, to another edition of Cosmic News. Coming up in this week's broadcast, what to expect as Nibiru closes in on Earth, the horrific truth of how this massive fiery object will affect our planet and the people. Plus, a warning has been issued that Yellowstone supervolcano will erupt within weeks. So how will an eruption of this giant affect America and the world? Also, concern is growing that Ebola virus is out of control and a threat to the global community. And Putin to issue feared dead hand order as global war nears. Okay, officials feared was a ruse to war. A dead hand order, it should be remembered, is a Cold War era nuclear control system developed by the Soviet Union and remains in use today, and is controlled from the massive and highly secretive underground military city at Mount Yamato, located in the Republic of Bashkortostan. Dead hand is an example of failed deadly deterrence, as it can automatically trigger the launch of the Russian intercontinental ballistic missiles ICBMs if a nuclear strike is detected by seismic light. Dead hand order not used since the 26th of September 1983, when the nuclear early warning system of the Soviet Union twice reported the launch of American Minuteman intercontinental ballistic missiles ICBMs from bases in the United States. The issuance of the 1983 Dead Hand Order, this report says, was in response to a 5-day North Atlantic Treaty Organization NATO command post-exercise called Ebola 83. That's Soviet military official. Into this week's news. This first report originates from whatdoesitmean.com. Title: Putin issues feared dead hand order as global war nears, by Socha Fael, and as reported to her Western subscribers, posted on July 29th, 2014. A grim report issued by the Strategic Missile Force SMF, which is the main component of Russian Strategic Nuclear Force SNF, states that President Putin earlier today issued a feared